Now, if it's Thursday, then you know what it is. It's Fishin' and Huntin today. And I'm your studio producer, Sid Davis. And I have none other than the pleasure, the privilege of introducing one of the Hall of Famers in the radio game. Not just from your town to my town, but from all around. Mr. Jerry Cripp. And we have a special guest today, Mr. Steve Quinn, a 35-year TV guy and all multimedia outdoorsman specialist for 40 years. And with all that being said, I'm passing along to you guys. How you doing today?
Good, Sidney. How are you? Steve, how are you?
Doing
Fine. Thank you. Good to chat with you. We just had the grandkids visiting, so that's been a lot of work, as you might well know. But a lot of fun, too. My grandson's an avid angler, so that's cool. To get him going in the sport, it's wonderful. Really wonderful, really.
How old is he, Steve?
He's, little McCarthy is 8.
Wow, that's a perfect age to get him going. My God, you'll be one for life.
Isn't it right? Yeah.
No question. Now, will he follow in Grandpa's footsteps, you think? Has he got an interest in, Grandpa, how did you do this with radio, TV, writing, or anything like that?
Well, he's not obviously, really knowledgeable and, potential things yet, but he does like to get outdoors, and his dad's an avid hunter. Daniel, fortunately, he got some good mentors, because I never did hunt growing up in New York City, So,
there's no fish
with 4 legs.
There's no fish. There you go. I like that. Well, that 2-legged honey's not bad, my friend. What about there's no fish in that pond in Central Park?
Well, they say now, actually, there are some bass, but, yeah.
I can see the headlines now. Steve Quinn arrested for fishing in the park in Central Park.
Well, it is. No, it's illegal. It's illegal. They can walk, and then they used to rent boats, but I don't know if they still do that. There are a couple areas. The Harlem Pier was one, and then there was also a spot on the north side.
Well, how many years ago did your family move from New York City? Been a while, probably.
Well, I took a job directly. I was in Massachusetts working in the late. Let's see, no, it was mid 1970s. I gotta track my date now. It's a long time. And then we, after getting a master's degree in fisheries at the University of Massachusetts, got a job in Georgia. So I worked as a biologist in Georgia for about 5 years, and from there got the opportunity to start in fishermen and move everything to Minnesota. So that was pretty exciting for me, considering that the magazine was just really growing at that time and emphasizing the science and the fishing. You got to understand the biology of the fish and what they're feeding on and the different vegetations and water quality and those type of things. It's just fit into my...
And that was too probably, well, it was. I mean, because then you were there for the start of the TV part of the Fisherman too, weren't you?
Yeah, they had, Al had done his own show from an early on. He's a natural with the camera, of course. And then in Fisherman, as soon as I got there, I started doing shows with Ron and Al and Jimmy. It was really, really amazing, really amazing, really cool to work with them. Still is, really.
Well, I don't think it's ever, sadly, I know you had mentioned Ron as fast, but I don't think Al will go anywhere anytime soon, do you? I think as long as he's able to get in a boat and fish, he's going to probably get in a boat and fish, isn't he?
Oh, without a doubt. Al just loves it, and he's so excited, and he's very healthy.
I think
wonderful.
I think there is the key, what you just said, Steve. He's excited still about fishing.
He still is excited.
And that's the key, because I say this all the time on the hunting side, and I really believe this. I think it's true. If you lose the anticipation and the excitement of an upcoming season for hunting, and this applies to fishing too, and just getting ready for it, the prep of it, going on a trip and all that, if you lose that, and it's pretty well coming to an end with your career as far as a fisherman or hunter. That's my thoughts anyway.
Oh yeah, no, that's so much fun, and that's why our good companies sell so much tackle, because we want to get ready, make sure we have this, that, and other, new product that really does look good, and oftentimes does catch a lot of fish. So it's just exciting in that aspect. But yeah, it's all that, you got to have that love of it and that excitement. That's what we try to inspire in the young kids, and they really are getting it, I think, a lot of them.
Well, I know here in Ohio, and you guys probably in Minnesota too, we had the most number ever of the season in 2020. There was 87,000 people that applied for our draw hunts here in Ohio, the highest number ever. And we had really good hunting license sales. Fishing license sales are always good here in Ohio. That's something we really, with the recruitment side with fishing, I think you retain your people that are fishermen too, because if they fish now, even after they retire, they're going to have more time, they're going to fish even more. And I think that plays in big time on the fishing side, no question about it. I think on the hunting side, we deal a little more with time restraints. People work. Hunting trips a little bit different than a fishing trip as far as prepping, getting ready. You got to find out where you're going, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All that. Really, with fishing, we're fortunate enough. We can go to a great Smalley stream or Lake Erie or Ohio River, whatever the case may be, and we're fishing. But that's good to see on both sides. With more people on fishing licenses sold in 2020 and on hunting licenses sold in 2020. Now we're losing a little bit of that on the hunting side again, because people are going back to work. If they were laid off because of COVID, they're now going back to work. So what's the big problem when you get to that point? Time again. We're back in time.
Well, right. There is that, always that. But, when the people get the love, then they can find the good, it seems like.
Well, that's the way I look at it. If you really want to do it, you'll do it, won't you?
Right. You will absolutely do both.
That's the way I look at it. If you really want to be out there and you really want to do it, you'll do it. I want to ask you before we get into some summertime tips for both smallie and largemouth, but you guys experience warmer than normal this time of year?
Oh, without a doubt. It's been really unusually, sustained warm, and we had an early ice out. I imagine you guys really never did have much ice.
No, we didn't.
And, so things have been changing. A lot of the vegetation, came in early, and then it's still, some of the the lily pads, for example, aren't really fully developed yet. But, so it's kind of an odd one that the water temperature hasn't changed a lot, despite the warm weather.
That's interesting.
We're still in the low to mid 70s.
Well, your spawns are done then, aren't they? As far as any of your bass are done spawning up there, I'm thinking?
That's correct, yes. They definitely are done. Even the late smallies are pretty much finished, which is good. We hopefully they probably will have a good year of reproduction. So that's always important.
And your walleye, I'm assuming your walleye, they're done too, aren't they?
Yes.
Well, they'll probably
they'll go done.
Yeah, they'll go way before the bass, that's for sure. And then the smallies, between the two, the smallies will go after the largemouth, won't they?
Yeah, because usually they're from, coming from the deeper water.
Yep.
I've known them to spawn very cooler water, but, it's tough to say. It takes vary on the timing. But now we're getting into our summer patterns, but very slowly.
So what you're saying,
I'm not sure why.
So what you're saying is probably your snow season will start what? Sometime mid-July?
The way it's going, it could be in late November. I don't know, because we've got every kind of record that goes back to the 1930s for warm weather in June.
Wow. Well,
yeah,
so good,
90s. I think we had 10 straight days in the 90s. It sounded like
I heard that. That's why I wanted to get an issue, but I heard and I saw that, and I said, "Are you sure you people got the right state with that?" 90s for the long stretch you guys had, like you said, 10 days or whatever. So that's very, very unusual, that's for sure. But it is sort of unusual, like you said, too, that it hasn't really affected the water temp that much, has it? I mean, if you're still in the 70s with water temp.
Yeah, that's the surprising thing. And my buddy Hal, who lives in Tennessee now and is retired professor of fishery, comes up every summer to fish this area because the bass fishing is so good. He was very surprised too, because he came up before the hot spell, and then seeing the same thing in some of the lakes up north. The mid-70s is what it's running.
With you being a biologist, Steve, what are your thoughts? What do you think could maybe be one of the causes of that? Is it because your lakes are deeper, northern lakes, and it takes them longer to go through the thermocline to get to the point where they can get maybe to 80 degrees or out of the 70s?
Well, without a doubt, particularly the larger ones have a lot of wind fetch, and there's a lot of deeper water that, in the summer will be in the 40s. The lakes of thermocline, but they keep up welling because we've had a lot of wind. So that's part of the factor, and then we have had cooler nights for some time. So that when you're 93 in the day, but you go down to 60, it's a little slower to heat up.
What have you seen with the travel, in 20? I mean, there wasn't a lot going on. This time last year, I mean, there wasn't a lot going on last June. I mean, things were pretty well shut down in a lot of areas. And Minnesota is such a tourism-type state. It's a great outdoor state, land of 10,000 lakes, and probably still counting for more lakes. But how have you seen that affect Minnesota as far as people coming to fish? Are they really getting back into it now? You're seeing a lot more people coming to fish in Minnesota?
Oh, Jerry, I want to tell you that the resorts are really starting to be booked up completely, because we've got a few tournaments around different parts of the state. And if you don't have something a couple weeks in advance, you might be out of luck.
That's good news.
The resorts are back full-time, and even the little motels, the Super 8s and the Days Inns are filling up, on the weekends anywhere near a good lake.
Well, that's good to hear for people coming up to enjoy some fishing, but not so much good for the guys in the tournaments trying to find a place to stay.
You got to think ahead of that, and for sure. And similarly with the guys, they're really doing well, which is great to see, because a lot of them were, kind of worried when there was so many closures that they couldn't take people for a while, that kind of thing.
Well, but see, I think, unfortunately, too, I think so many of those type of the guide business, they rely so heavily on their repeat business. And when you get a situation like we were in, where people couldn't come and people were canceled, those people support them greatly, because they'll come back to them as soon as they're able to. And thank God they've got such a good clientele and a backlog, but just repeat business. That's critical.
Oh yeah, no, it's great, and that in combination with the timing of when the vaccines were, everybody was starting to get all vaccinated up. So you see that now the cases of COVID dropping. So people are no longer. There's still some in fear, but overall, people who are vaccinated, you're free and clear, which is great, and that then inspires the confidence to do these things. And it's just led to, after last year being fairly, homebound,
Yeah.
to get out there and do some of these activities. There was a lot of fishing last year, but very locally. Now people are traveling.
Yeah, that's a good point to bring up, because people were looking for a pastime, something to do, and they said, well, let's go fish, but they did it close to home, just like you said. Day trips for sure, not staying anywhere. See, one other question I want to ask you too, because to me this is really, really getting to the point. It's getting really bad, and I know with you being a border state up there with Canada, what are you hearing? We're hearing maybe from some people over in Ontario, maybe the border's going to open back up, maybe in August. But he also told me they also said they were going to maybe open up in May. Well, they didn't do that. So here we are, maybe August. What are you hearing about Canada up there opening up? Anything?
Well, I don't know too much more than you, to be honest. I've heard a few dates change, and now they're talking now. Like I did hear that August date as well, and there was another one even into September, which would be they're after fishing, but maybe enough for some deer and bear hunters to make it across. But the government, Trudeau, is being so conservative. I don't know. I don't want to get into politics with it, but even while not allowing vaccinated people to cross is kind of, and he says he's going by the science. So that's a little bit of my own opinion there. But I really don't know. It's sad because I know a lot of lodge owners that are just, they're about to lose their properties. They're losing their employees. They've got to go on to something else, whether they be the Native American people or, the Canadians. They're just, but it's tough. They haven't had the efficiency of the U.S. to get the vaccines. I've talked to an 80-year-old former neighbor that lived right across the street in Brainerd. She and her husband, who's a doctor, they got their first shot in, I think, April, and they were still waiting as of 2 weeks ago to get their second shot.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Just totally lagging in the way the medical system is operating.
That's free health care up there, and that's probably, look what happens when you get free health care.
I don't know. Some fell through the cracks, but I don't know why they didn't anticipate this situation. They got doctors, hopefully they're qualified.
Hopefully you come off the prairies looking for a job and say, well, guess what? You're going to be a doctor for a week.
I don't know, but we're lucky here. We should be really fortunate and thankful with all our doctors and the medical business that we have here. It can be a real pain. I've dealt with it, but as far as them getting people where they can operate, it's been pretty amazing.
Well, the thing that really surprises me about Canada is if you own property up there, you can't even go up and check on your property. And if you don't have somebody up there that you really trust that can do that for you, you're in deep trouble, because guess what? The boys and girls up there that are up to not such good stuff are thinking, now, wait a minute here. They can't come up here and check, so we might as well go in and help ourselves.
Well, I hope that isn't, but you're right. That could be occurring, and we'll find out. Who knows? Hopefully this fall, but
wow, it's crazy.
Just really, it is unfortunately on our border that it would be such a drastic difference.
That's unbelievable. We got border issues south, and we got border issues up north. We can't get up there to, check on or support guides that we like to support, and none of that can be done. And, right. Now August 1st, and I tell you, if I had to guess, I kind of doubt August 1st. I'd be willing to bet, Steve, this is sounding to me a lot like, let's wait until the busy time slows down. If we're going to open it back up, let's do it November, December, or we'll do it the first of the year.
I believe they might wait till next spring. Every new variant that, certainly it is a bad one, the Delta one, that, scares them, that, people have, it's true that people haven't got vaccinated. It's very dangerous. The B117 was highly transmissible. I saw people that avoided the other, and then they all of a sudden got that. unfortunately, and some of them, got over it pretty good, and others were in tough shape. But this other one, they say, is catchable. So hopefully, I see that they're trying to do the best thing and even get the vaccines out. So hopefully that'll work, and hopefully they can get some up to Canada where they'll feel more confident. That's what it's going to take.
I mean,
I don't know why he's being so overcautious. That's my opinion, but.
What's hard to do about loading up some semis with some vaccine and heading to Ottawa and getting it to those people up there and getting it distributed. Now, I can see out in the prairies and out in some of the places like British Columbia and some of those areas like that where it's very, very remote, but still, you can somehow get the word out to those people to head to town. We're coming to give you a vaccine. That's just, to me, it just...
Oh, yeah. But Jerry, from Toronto to Buffalo, how far is that?
Oh, my God, that's what, 10 miles?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
I think we can manage that, couldn't you? They could walk it there probably in no time.
Across the Peace Bridge, yeah.
Unbelievable, yep. Steve. I don't get it either, but let's hope for the best for everybody up there, and hope our...
Oh, yeah, because I'd love to go back. I really want to get my grandson up to Canada. He would just die to see those big northerners up there and stuff.
Oh, that would really give him a thrill. That would definitely... He's hooked already on fishing, but could you imagine if he catches one of them northerns that's taller than he is or longer than he is?
Yeah, for sure.
He'd probably say, Grandpa, now what can we do?
Yeah, right.
That'd be neat. Well, we hope you get to do that up there. I don't know. I'm not going to give you too much hope for getting that done this year, Steve, because I don't think you're going to make any fishing up there this year. I hate to say that, but it don't look good, that's for sure.
I'm starting to feel the same way. So
yeah, it don't look promising.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, my friend. Let's see if we could do for some of our people out there. We always get a couple tips or two because you fished about anywhere you can think about fishing for bass. And here we are, and I cannot believe, my goodness, the 24th of June already. My God, I mean, before you know it, it's going to be September 1st here on us. It's going to be unbelievable. So we've got plenty of time to do some good. Everything's postponed now. One of my good floating worm techniques, that's really over. That works for about 2 weeks after the spawn. That's about as close as we get around here to sight fishing for bass. Bubblegum color works good.
Right, yes, it does.
But what do you think about now as we go through, say, maybe about the mid-July? That's a month. What do you think would be a good baits this time of year and a good technique maybe in a tip or two for summertime bass for folks?
Well, what I've been kind of amazed to see is the effectiveness of these chattering baits.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever you have, the vegetation and not ultra clear water, they're absolutely deadly, particularly if it's a little cloudy. They will fool fish like you wouldn't believe.
Mm-hmm.
Way up shallow. It's interesting. I've noticed some daily movement of fish shallower and deeper as the sun, gets high. They'll move back deep, but in the morning you got a great shallow bite, and those we have, of course, love that chatterbait itself, the Z-Man, but the shuttering bait, the Storm model, has just got a really wide action. That is a really, really nice bait that has a completely different appearance from the chatterbait itself. Different vibration pattern that's been really effective on those conditions when you can get a low light bite in the morning or cloudy, windy days. And then later, I tell you what, every year goes by and everybody knows about it, but that Ned rig will save your day if you're having a really tough one.
Mm-hmm.
If it's not too grassy, you can toss that thing against riprap or dam pilings or the edge of docks or really anything and get some fish, and sometimes some really big fish. It has a reputation for, getting some small keeper size, but 5-pounders will eat it, I guarantee you.
Well, and that's a great point with those chatterbaits. I think that bait, I don't think is used. It's not talked about as much. And a lot of people think, okay, I just tie on a spinnerbait, we'll go with that. There's a big difference between a spinnerbait and a chatterbait, no question about that.
Yep.
But I don't. How about that chatterbait in the evening as the sun starts to fade? Bass start moving up close to maybe pick off a bite or two before they go to bedtime for the night. Is that another thing maybe you could throw in that evening type period?
Yes. Oh, definitely. You know, right. As long as you have light, I think it's a real good one. After dark, I don't know if you can really beat a thump of a spinnerbait with a Colorado blade, but or top water. But in the low light, then they definitely start feeding more in the shallows, and that's when you can cover amazing water. You can run it much faster than a spinnerbait, and it's just they nail it. They completely eat it.
And that chatterbait is nothing. There's not so much color of that bait, but it's really that noise. That's the big deal with that bait, isn't it?
Oh yes, it's a clacking sound that's produced by the blade and the head, and as well as a rather wild vibration. And the cool thing is you can add different types of trailers to it, including just a fluke style for a more subtle action of a very non-subtle bait. But at times you can do well even with a small swim bait, and that really increases the vibration and allows you to work it slower. And double tail trailers, a grub, all sorts of things.
I think that small swim bait makes a great trailer on a chatterbait. I think really, and I think what it does, along with that noise, along with that trailer bait, might give the impression to a bass that that's a wounded bait fish, and it might be easier, they thinking, to pick that thing off. It's a possibility.
Well, sure, they're when they get in that mood to feed, they're want something that isn't too particular, too bizarre.
They don't want to have to chase it down a lot of times. If it's easier to catch, we might as well go for the one easier to catch, I think is the thought.
Yes, and that one works slow or fast, almost equally well.
So, folks, there you go. I think that's a great summer tip from Steve about that chatterbait. A lot of times, often, not maybe often, but sometimes, I think part of it, Steve, could be people don't really understand the chatterbait. I'm not talking about pros, guys that are fishing tournaments all the time. They know what's what with all the different baits that they throw. But I'm thinking in some cases with people, they really don't understand quite enough how to use the chatterbait and what the chatterbait really can be very effective doing. I think the more they learn about it, I think the more they're used.
I think so. I think you're exactly right, Jerry. And that's the one aspect of the shuttering bait, which is one of the very newer ones. And it's a really, really very different. You look at it in the package, and that's just like a kind of a similar to the chatterbait, but it has a whole different action. Almost like all your different crankbaits. You know how different a crankbait can be, from a wide wobbler to a tight wiggle. It's a similar situation with these bladed jigs, as I tend to lump them all as with the bladed jigs. And there's really a lot to it, and it gives you a lot of versatility when you change the trailer, almost like what people do with a swim jig. Think how versatile that lure can be when you put on different trailers.
That swim bait, Steve, has been around for a long time. Now, there's a perfect example right there. That thing has been around forever. I think what gave that a new life in a way, I'm not saying it never went totally away because it's always been there. But when they came out with the rigs where you had three baits you could run, or no matter what, I forget what the name of that thing was.
Alabama rig or whatever.
That's it. That's the Alabama rig. That brought those swim baits back to people, and then they figured, okay, it worked with that rig. How about if I get it this way as a trailer on whatever the bait may be? And I think that gave it a new life. Not so much it did, but it gave new life with that. And that Alabama rig, I think, helped with that. I really do.
I agree with you, because they started selling tons of them from like 2.8 inches up to 3.8 or maybe 4 inches. It used to be everything's got to be 5 or 6 inches, for but it's a whole different look. It's a little subtle presentation either on a jig head or an umbrella rig, like you say, or on the back of a bladed jig.
Yeah, umbrella rig, that's the exact term that it's called. Thank you, sir, for that. And here's the other thing, too, with that, Steve, with that umbrella rig. A lot of people, I've thrown it this way, and I've had success with it, take that, and it varies by state how many can have hooks, but you can have as many dummies on that thing as you want.
Right.
But take that hook and put it on a trailer bait, and it absolutely, because you're trying to mimic a little, group of forage fish for bass, and it absolutely mimicked a wounded one because it was the trailer one, not quite able to keep up with the other ones, and you get a lot of hits on that if you trailed that one in the middle or wherever you wanted to put that trailer. So
yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, in Minnesota we can have only one with the hook, so we got to do it right.
Yep, and you can. I think we're 2 here, but you can have dummies up there. How many? Are you limited on the dummies you can have?
No. Apparently, no. I guess you can have as many as as feasible. I find
Yeah.
About 5 bait enough.
If people would take and put that hook in that trailer bait and run as many dummies as you're able to run up. With that, the key is that when you get all those dummies on there, you cast that out there. You don't want to tangle everything up, or your whole setup looks pretty fake.
Oh yes, and the other thing is, if you're running into a lot of northern pike, look out because they will wreck it.
Yep, good point.
You'll be 15 minutes sitting on the boat trying to fix it up.
Good point. That's when you need a couple other rods rigged up, ready to go. I think would be
if you're smart, yes.
One thing I wanted to ask you about, I don't know how it fishes for you guys up in Minnesota, but it's pretty hot for us down this way, is the imitation frogs. Do you throw a frog at all in the summer?
Oh, yes. I love a frog bite, and some years we have a good bite in the pads and the slop, and others it's just not quite hot. But I love when it's on because it is just amazing to see fish. And where we are, we have so many boats in as well, and they give you, you'll think you have a monster bass, playing with it, and you'll tease them into biting, and then you get a 7-8 pound bowfin. And that's about the end of your frog.
Well, see, now I'm a believer. I'm not much for the pink frogs and all the other wild color frogs. I like throwing a brown frog or a green frog. And I'm a firm, because there were studies done, university studies done, that bass are not colorblind. They can detect and they do know color. So I saw that study, read a little bit about that, and I said, that's it. No more of that stuff for these kind of baits. They're great for the bubblegum float worms post-spawn. But this here, frog fishing, I think you need to match the color to the real thing as close as you can. What do you think?
Oh, I think it's true. Certainly I've seen days, I like you a lot of green frogs. I do have those. But some days in the sunny, they're like a white frog, and then other days it's a black frog.
Okay.
And it's really interesting. It's amazing about their color preference because you can demonstrate it when 2 fishermen in a boat. But you can do, I've got if you want to have a short, just a little smallmouth note about color. Green pumpkin purple used to be one of my favorite colors for grub. We swim with grub a lot for smallmouth bass when they're in the 2 to 8 foot range. And the water mille lacs got clearer, and they hardly would bite it anymore. I had a buddy, and he had the straight green pumpkin, and it's hard to tell even by looking at him which one has purple in it. He was catching 10 to 1 with straight green pumpkin over green pumpkin with a little bit of purple flake. 10 to 1 for the straight green pumpkin. 10 bass, 1 bass to me with the purple. So I quickly changed, believe me, and then I started catching fish.
Well, sure, and I think that's a great thing to do. You got two people fishing, one do one thing. Don't both do the same thing. That's not a good thing to do. And
exactly.
Once you figure out what's going on, then everybody try on the same. But I think there's another one right there with that purple. They were able maybe to detect that and figure, hey, you don't want that today.
Well, it used to be very effective, Jerry, when the water was a little murkier.
Uh-huh.
But now with tons of mussels in the lake, it's clearer. And they wanted the regular green stay green.
They will clean up the lake, mussels and zebras. They will absolutely clean it up, won't they?
Very well.
We need plankton, though, for growing game fish, and as little baby game fish need plankton to eat. So we don't want them cleaning all that out, do we?
No, well, that's been the marvel of Lake Erie. You're so fortunate to be close by there because that was predicted to be the big problem, how Lake Erie would crash. Like the walleye population probably has never been better.
Oh, my God. Steve, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. People now, and we get charter guys that we've done for years on the show and stuff, and in fact, I just had Mike Patterson Sports Fishing was on with us last week. I think Mike was with us talking a little bit about Lake Erie. He also fishes out of Destin down in Florida too. But he was mentioning that it really now this is a full charter, which is 6 people. They're back in about max 3 hours. Everybody's limited.
Really?
6 fish limit. So you're talking about 36 keeper walleye caught in a 3-hour and sometimes less period of time.
Wow.
Very little culling they're doing. I like seeing stage sizes, but right now, very little culling they're doing to get to that 36 bag limit. And if he wanted to, and some guys are doing 2 trips, but if he's just doing 1 trip a day. But if he wanted to, he could easily do 2 trips a day. So,
with a whole new crew and on there.
Well, I would get that's when you get ready to head this way. You let me know, and we'll set you. That's exactly who I'd set you up with. Would be Mike.
Really?
Get you set up with him because he also. I had mentioned to you about the largemouth fishing is off the charts,
right.
And you need to sample that too. And Sandusky Bay is. Really turning on with some really nice bass there that I think people that they're not really hitting the bay. The bay's not really being fished for bass the way it really could be because they're so good all the way from Toledo, really all the way to. In fact, even as you get into the Central Basin, you're still able to catch these largemouth. But the Western Basin is just unbelievable.
Uh-huh. Amazing. Yeah, I've got to do that.
Yes,
definitely. I even hear that on the upper Niagara area, there are some more and more largemouth there and near Buffalo. But everybody goes out in the reefs for the brown bass, so they get ignored for the most part.
Absolutely. And you know how big those little brown bass can get over there in that eastern basin. 7-pounders, aren't there?
Yeah, there are.
Yeah, well, we've got smallies are coming back.
Largemouth, I love largemouth fishing. It's just you can't beat it, but I love them all. Yep.
I agree. Well, see, that's that versatility where it comes into for a guide too. I've got a guy here on Brookville Lake in Indiana, Tag Nobby. He what he does. He'll guide his plan, and Brookville is Indiana's walleye factory. That's where they get all their eggs from and everything for the state for the summer program. Brookville Lake. Google that up when you get a chance. It's in Brookville, Indiana. Brookville Lake. Mm-hmm. It's a core lake. It's a reservoir. But what he does, he takes his clients out fishing. They may want to go on a walleye trip. They ain't biting. He'll put them on whatever's biting, and they love him for doing that because they come back with fish, whether it's crappie, bass, white bass, or whatever the case may be. If the walleye's not biting, he'll put them in something else. And that's a good smaller lake, too, is Brookville Lake.
Well, that's interesting. I should get hold of you and write a trip tip about that, Jerry. Where the fishermen have the trip tips section.
I think that would be a great one, and I think Tag would be the great contact for people to do there. Okay. That lake, Steve, there And I think Mike would be good for if you wanted to do a piece for fishermen on Lake Erie. Mike would be a good one to do that too.
Okay.
But with Brookville, that lake over there, some people have referred that lake can be as good of a smallmouth fishery as Lake Erie can be, depending on what time of year. Spring is good, and fall is good again. Now, when people say it's that good, and this is a guy from Strictly Bass that used to make bass floors that was saying that, and when he says something like that, you want to take listen to it. But it's a good smallie lake, and it's a good walleye lake too. I was going to have that was on my list. That was on my list here. I asked you what you thought was a good hot spot as far as a largemouth lake for summertime. Midwest, and would you say anything in Minnesota that comes to mind for you? I know Mille Lacs would be probably good smallie. How is Mille Lacs for largemouth?
Mille Lacs has a very limited largemouth. I wouldn't send anyone over there for that. Although there are some nice ones, but they're very, very limited. Their habitat, most of the 95% of the lake is dominated by smallmouth. There's a few reed patches and little slop bays where the muskies spawn or try to spawn where there are bass. But no, there's plenty of wonderful largemouth lakes. One of them that was one of our real high pointers years ago, it's still very, very good, Lake Minnetonka, but it is kind of a headache. There's so much boat traffic in the Twin Cities, but it's still loaded with 4-pounders. But one that I just kind of did discover, and I will share this with our listeners here, is Big Stone Lake on the border of Minnesota and South Dakota.
Whoa. How would you say?
27 miles long. It's a big lake. It's about 1.5 miles wide, I suppose, on average. And it does have a lot of surprisingly big bass. I mean, lots of 5-pounders. Let's say that. And that's hard to say about any other lake in Minnesota.
Is that lake pretty heavily fished for bass, Steve?
Actually not.
That's what I thought.
Either way, it's in the farm country between the two states that has also very good walleye fishing.
There you go.
Winter fishery for yellow perch is pretty good. Lots of perch. Not like the size you get, but, ears. Ears are very, very common. Mm-hmm. And they're also big bluegill, big white bass. I mean, if you want white bass, 2 to 3 pounds, all over the place. Yes, big white bass. That's fun.
So you discovered this just looking for some new spots, or?
Yeah, we went over there to fish a tournament, and we were blind, didn't know anything about it, and we learned a lot.
I would think so. That sounds like a nice lake. So there's a good tip from Steve Quinn for a Midwest lake.
Well, let me put it this way, Jerry. When you come in with a tournament 5 bass limit of 20 pounds, and you're like way down in the pack, and you're not in Texas or something, in Florida, you're like, what's going on?
Have you fished Okeechobee in Florida, Steve? I'm sure you have.
I have, and it's been quite a few years. Yeah. Well, but the guys that'll win with a big bag, but then somebody with like 5 bass, it'll be 8-9 pounds.
Well, we've got with Brian Hunterlaw is our Okeechobee guy. He's guided down there and he also tournament fishes too. But and I agree with him, and I say for the eastern part of the United States, your best shot at catching a 10-pound plus largemouth would be out of Okeechobee.
Well, certainly it's got a lot. It's a lot of water. It's got share. You can look at Florida. Their new program, Trophy Catch, it's got the statistics, and it's certainly up there. Of course, you got to consider that there is 500,000 acres there.
Yep. And I guess
Toho's got a whole lot of big ones for its size.
What's an average fish largemouth coming out of there?
Oh boy. You can virtually count on an 8-pounder.
Wow.
Every day. Yeah.
Wow. That's a nice fish.
Yeah, it's a big fish.
Well, then you guys too. We got to mention. Well, we don't have to mention, but we're talking about places with big fish. I think the state of California, that's almost like fish out there that are in aquarium fish. I mean, my God, those fish out there are monsters, aren't they?
They are. Now it's kind of been on a down cycle, and certainly this drought we're having has not helped things.
That's a good point.
I was there at a very small lake, and it was like an aquarium. I caught myself a 10-pounder and netted for my buddy, the guy that invited me. He caught a 15. We saw a couple swimming around that were easily 20.
Oh my God!
And there's no lie. But it unfortunately suffered a fish kill.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, and it's just starting to kind of come back. They tried to improve the water quality.
Oh.
It was, I guess, the people that cleaned up were just heartbroken to see the giant. Well, it had trout in it, of course. They eat a lot of trout, the big ones. And there was monster bass and huge bluegill and red ear sunfish. Giants, like well over 2 pounds apiece.
Wow.
Well,
that's sad to hear when you hear a fish kill of any sorts anywhere to me. But seeing those kind of fish like that, that's not good.
Those residents, yeah. Oh,
not good.
Let me ask you this: algae.
What about new stuff for this year, 21? Did was ICAST virtual last year in 2020?
It was kind of, didn't hear as much about a lot of products because of it being that way. You had to really do your homework to find out things.
Are they back? Did they have one this year already or not?
Yeah, no, it's going to be back in Orlando and going gangbusters in I think about 3.5 weeks.
Okay, so that's coming. That's July sometime.
Yes, mid-July as usual. And in Orlando, it's a nice venue. I was thinking to try to go, but I've got other conflicts. So,
well, I tell you, they might cancel that if Steve Quinn doesn't go. Do you think?
Well, who knows? Everything's changing in the fishing world. It's really weird. I've heard that Rapala won't even be there because they've got some other things in the works. So. Well,
when Rapala and Steve Quinn don't show up, then you might as well close it.
Right? Yeah. What I said.
I'd say that's pretty well. Well, that Columbus Fishing Expo that you came over that one year and did. That's a nice one. They didn't do that because Ohio.
Oh, it is very nice.
No, you couldn't do it.
Oh really?
State was shut down. I know. He's hoping. I'm sure to be back come next year.
That was a great show. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, that's a nice piece that he puts on with that. That's well attended, and that and the outdoor shows are one that really suffered, Steve, with these shutdowns because my God. They live, that's their livelihood. They have those shows to put their shows on and not being able to do them. That's not good. It
really was unfortunate. I work with the folks down in the Quad Cities area of Illinois and Iowa as well. And they have huge sports shows. They have a boat show. I have been down to the outdoor show for at least 10 straight years. And they do plant shows and others. And they've been completely, closed. They've had no activities. And this year, they're getting back going. I understand. So they were able to make it through. If they've got enough volunteer help, they've got enough clubs behind them to continue the tradition. Because it can't be just about money. You got to love it too. Yeah.
Yep. Oh, I know. And they need to be supported. So. Folks out there listening to us, wherever you're listening to us now, because you can hear us worldwide, so wherever you're hearing, when you've got a show coming in your area, by all means, you want to support that show for sure if you can do that.
Oh, it's fun to get back out there, and chit chat with folks and see the product in hand. I think that's always fun. People buy online, but I don't really. Sometimes if I have to, I will, but I'd rather go and look at it.
I see. That's to me. I do the same. I absolutely agree with that. I think it's hands-on. It's very, very critical when you're looking for a new piece of equipment that you're going to be using for quite a while. You hope you want to make sure it's what you really want. And that virtual's fine, but still, you got to have hands-on. No question about that. Real quick, Steve, before we let you go, I know you got the little ones there. Anything new this year or coming out of 2020, I should say, that really came to mind, that really stuck out to you as far as rods, reels, anything there?
Well, I did a interesting piece. That was actually for the Linder Media. That was about top bass rods under $100, which was kind of a neat concept. And I came up with a really nice selection of a variety of rods that are, high quality, designed by pro fishermen, and right and hitting at the top end at $100. And a couple of the highlights, a couple of the St. Croix models, the Bass actually a little bit above, but they had a couple, and then Lew's had the KBD. And a few others, and Abu had, also some really nice rods that fit that range. So there's a lot of new anglers coming in. Don't be discouraged by seeing a $500 rod from some company. You can get a really good, very, very effective and fun to fish rod for $100. I would point to those 3 companies in my research. They kind of came on top: the Lew's line, the Abu Garcia, and the St. Croix.
Well, I'll tell you why you mentioned 3 great companies there. My goodness, we watch Lew's. And welcome back. I think we had a little technical glitch there, but I think we got it all taken care of. So we fix that up for us. Steve, you can hear me. I can hear you. We were talking about rods. We were talking about rods, and we got disconnected here. We were talking about rods for $100 and 3 great companies: Lew's, Abu, and then we also had St. Croix there. And all of them also, I think, would be good to mention. We mentioned St. Croix being great with their warranties. But Lew's is probably the same way, and Abu, I would think, is the same way with their warranties too, aren't they?
Yeah, no, they do stand behind the products, and they were good.
Nothing like to make sure you got a good piece of equipment in your hand. Makes a real big difference with whether you're going to land that fish or you're not going to land that fish.
Yeah, it's certainly. There's a lot of new lures, but nothing that struck me as totally revolutionary, to be honest with you. One of the neatest ones maybe would be there's a company called 13 Fishin. It's been around for a while, and they're starting to really grow more bass fishing products. And the Jabberjaw is a square bill crankbait, and the bill is loose, so that it goes back and forth almost like a chatterbait action. I've never seen anything quite like it. So it's a really neat product, and indeed, I've caught some big bass already with it.
Any color, when people look for that comes to mind that might be a good color?
Well, early in the season, the red crayfish was really, really hot. Yep, it's called a Jabberjaw, and it's it's like a loud critter, as you would expect.
Absolutely, and in red, I think people are learning that there's another thing. people learning about colors of their baits too and how important they can be. Red, I think, again, might fall under that column we were talking about earlier, about mimicking away a wounded or dying forage fish with that color, and these fish are going to attack that, thinking that that's exactly what it is. I think that can play a part for sure. See,
here, it seems to be magic, Terry. That's all I know.
There you go. There's a lot to be learned about the color red with your crankbaits especially. I think that people could really, really learn a lot from it. It's going to make it pay off for them, too. One other question I got to ask you now before we let you go, and I promise we won't keep you after this, but people are starting to shoot the docks down here looking for big crappie and bass. Are you shooting the docks up there at all?
Well, it is a very wonderful method, and I first learned about it at Lake of the Ozarks. You know, their docks are aircraft carrier size almost, and it can be the only way to catch them.
Yep.
You know, it's really fun, and it's not as hard as it looks. I would tell folks, you got to get the right rod, it's got to be supple, and it takes about 10 minutes of practice, and then you'll be good to go, and you'll be catching them far back. If you've got the large structures on any of the waters, it's really fun to do. To get it, you can get it 30 or 40 feet back underneath there if you get a good smack on it.
Yeah, and I think that's
it along.
I think the point you bring up too about the size of the dock too. You get some of these little docks, it's barely enough room to walk out on. That's no need to shoot the dock there. But
exactly right. You might as well drop a bobber.
Yeah, it's absolutely correct. My friend, I want to thank you. It's always fun having you on. Why don't we plan on getting you back if you decide to go down in July, maybe sometime early August. Let's get you back. We'll do a little bit on late summertime fishing, and then we can preview a little bit of getting ready for a fall bite coming up in September. If we could do that, I think it'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, that sounds real good, Jerry. I can't wait to see the latest, and indeed, the seasons, as we know, change very quickly.
Yeah, we got to get you to Lake Erie, and then if you want info about either Mike for Lake Erie or Tag over at Brookville, I'd be happy to help you with that too. Okay.
I will get a hold of you, Jerry. I definitely want to write something up on those folks, because there's nothing like a good guy that really can put people on the fish that they want to hear about.
Well, I'll tell you what, I've used your in-fishermen, those exact things you're talking about for guests on our show, and it's really, really good and fun to have them. But I've used that a lot, so if that's your department with that, you do an outstanding job with that. It's well done.
Well, thank you very much. Yes, I've just been working with a guy upstate New York, and he's a guide for tiger muskie, which are one amazing fish. He's on Lake Otisco, and we wrote up an article, and he's been overwhelmed as people want to catch tiger muskie. They're not very common. And he's got a wonderful fishery, maybe the best in the whole East.
Well, I think you'll find that this type of stuff, people really, really enjoy seeing that. And then people that travel to fish, they're always looking for a new thing to catch, aren't they?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, the tiger is such a beautiful critter.
Well, I can imagine. Thank you, my friend. We enjoyed having you. Have a good 4th of July. Enjoy your little one, teaching him how to catch some of those big fish, too.
Yes, we'll try, Jerry. Thank you so much. Great to talk with you, as always.
And you let me know as soon as you can or whenever you want, and we'll get you hooked up with the two Tag and Mike for your column and then fishermen.
Will do, Jerry. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Good night.
We'll see you. Good night. Take care. There you go, Steve Quinn, worldwide fisherman, we might add. Real quick before we close here, I did want to mention Federal. If you're still having problems looking for ammo, if you've got a trip coming up, I suggest you keep looking, because I don't see this getting any easier here in the near future. So if you need for the upcoming dove seasons or the timber seasons, now's not too early to start looking. And if you need ammo for target, don't forget Federal Premium. They got a great lineup of target ammo. They're not getting any better all through their target lineup. quality ammo for target shooting shotgun disciplines for sure. Good show this evening, Sydney. You got a little bit of NBA you want to add? We ran a little bit over what we wanted to, but I know a little bit of NBA update. If you got anything, it'd be a great time to add it if you want to.
Well, currently in the fishing and hunting sports realm today, we have the Eastern Conference against the Western Conference, and the winner of these two conferences will be the champion of the NBA Finals. Currently, we have the 5th seed Hawks, who won their first game against the Bucks yesterday, 116-113. Then we also have, in the Western Conference Finals, the Clippers going against the Phoenix Suns. Now, LA hasn't won one yet, actually. Suns lead the series 2-0, and now one of their main all-stars has been cleared from COVID, which would be Chris Paul. Might know him from some of the State Farm commercials. This guy has been in pretty much quarantine, and with his team not, having him present, they've won 2 straight. So now he comes back, and they're already up 2 games. So that may be the end of this with a little bow on top. They might sweep these guys in LA. But we're not sure yet. Game 3 is today at 9 p.m., guys. It's at 9 p.m.
That's right.
Suns are the 51% favorite if you're into betting. But, tomorrow the Hawks will play the Bucks, so stay tuned for that one.
Well, one thing you can say, you're going to have an NBA final with new blood in it, aren't we?
Yep.
So that's one thing to look for. And Sydney just mentioned to you that's coming up here in an hour. In fact, that game will be on for you this evening. So if you're an NBA fan, you probably already know that. But it's good to follow the NBA a little bit. That's for sure, just like the NFL. It's good to follow that. And all the college kids hopefully can make it to that level, and very few do. But those who do, we wish them the best. That's for sure. Sydney, I want to thank you, as always. Outstanding job. I know we wanted to quit a little bit earlier, but, the best laid plans. And Steve, we had a lot we went through with him, so he hadn't been on for a while, so I appreciate you putting that together for us. We will be back with you next Thursday. Next Thursday, we've got Kevin Kale with us, and Kevin is in charge of the hatchery program here for the state of Ohio. And how about 40 million game fish that he grows per year? We're going to talk with him about that. That'll be next Thursday here on Fishin and Huntin today. Till then, get out and enjoy the outdoors. We'll see you then. So long.